I didn't want to come here, but I couldn't ask Mrs. Washburn to drive all the way back into town just to hear more bad news. Her daughters suggested meeting them halfway, and this place was it.
The stock they sold you is basically worthless. Either the companies don't exist or they've never heard of Lowe & Michaels Investments.
Oh, I should have known better. I started getting these investment offers in the mail shortly after my husband died. Yes, I should have done my due diligence before sending them any money at all.
These crooks are very slick, Mrs. Washburn. And they target seniors with mailing lists, lotteries, sweepstakes. Once they get your information, they don't give up.
Have you arrested these criminals yet? I mean, even if you can't recover any of my money, I would like the satisfaction of knowing that they're going to pay for their actions.
It's a bit more complicated than that. Lowe & Michaels is what we call a boiler room. It's basically a bank of phones and con men. They've set up shop in Canada to make it harder to prosecute. It would be very helpful if we could get access to your phone records.
Sure, I don't have any problem with that. However, I have caller ID on all the phones at home, and I don't remember ever seeing a call that came from outside the country.
Usually the calls are routed through switchers here in the U.S. Or they use prepaid cell phones or calling cards. They do the same with the mail, so you never see foreign postmarks.
I see. How clever of them. My husband always handled all of our investments. Perhaps I should have hired somebody after... The investments were so small, especially in the beginning, and I guess I wanted to think that I could do it on my own.
It's difficult watching someone when they realize that they've been taken. I could imagine Doris Washburn sitting alone in her house, just starting to realize that her husband was really gone. Then the phone rings, and it's a nice young man asking if she'd had a chance to read the prospectus that she'd received in the mail. She probably explained that she hadn't had time since her husband had only recently passed away. The con man would have then stopped talking about investments altogether. He'd spin some story about losing his aunt or sister. They might have talked for an hour or more without him ever once asking for money. By the time they'd hung up, Doris Washburn might have thought she'd made a new friend. The next time he called, she'd be happy to make a small investment.
Is there anything else you can recall that might help us? Did you speak to anyone else besides Matthew Raines?
Yes, I spoke to his supervisor on at least 2 occasions. And if anything, was even more charming than Mr. Raines. I remember he always asked how my daughter was holding up.
Mom, I'll get the car.
Oh, all right, honey. I believe his first name was Richards or Richardson, something like that. I know I have it written down at home. I'm very careful about taking good notes. I believe his first name was Park.
Park Richards?
Park Richards.
Park Richardson.
Park Richardson.
I'll need to get your notes today, Doris.
All right.
We're going to get to the bottom of this, I promise.
It couldn't be. We busted a boiler room operator named Park Richardson just before my father died 3 years ago. This was exactly the type of scam he used to run.
Didn't I tell you about that one, George? Didn't I tell you to load up on that one, George? Didn't I tell you I have my own mother in that stock, George? Got her.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, what's up?
Can you run a check with Marshall's and see if
Park Richardson is still locked up.
Richardson? Isn't that the guy that was running that investment scam? The, when your father's friend was mixed up in?
Yeah, it's him.
I'm working a U.S.-Canadian cross-border case.
Uh-huh.
Sounds like his M.O. If it
It's
is
him, it might make extradition easier.
Gotcha.
I know the U.S. attorney would love to get him back.
So would I.
Yeah, let me check with the marshals.
Great.
Give me about 20 minutes, okay?
Thanks.
Great.
It didn't take long to find out Park Richardson was released from prison 4 months ago. While he was inside the joint, he must have picked up some new tricks. We've gotten good at finding and busting boiler rooms in the U.S., so their newest wrinkle is taking their operations across the border, sometimes to Canada, Latin America, or an offshore island. But as fast as they can change their tactics, so can we. The Phone Busters National Call Center is a Canadian telemarketing fraud complaint organization. We now routinely work with Canada on cross-border fraud schemes. I called one of my contacts there and gave him all I had on Lowe & Michaels and my suspicions about Park Richardson.
I got it.
2 days later, an email brings me a passport photo of a man named Park Richards, who's in Canada on a tourist visa.
Check that out. Yeah.
The photo confirms it's our guy. Knowing the city he's in helps, and within a few days, Canadian law enforcement has tracked down the location of the boiler room in Montreal. Takes time for the Canadians to build their case.